So, Gretchen, what's a typical day in the studio like? Not when you come to work at Pyramid, but when you're here to do your own work.
Yeah. Well, my natural tendency is to dive into something and work on it for a really long time. I like really doing the same thing for a really long time. It makes me feel really invested and satisfying to check something off my list. However, some of the things that I do are kind of physical, like carving wood or screen printing or making paper. So I kind of can tap out after 3 or 4 hours. So I like to switch that around a little bit. So I'll carve for a little while on a wood block and then make some sheets of paper or maybe cast some paper. So variety kind of keeps my arms from not, tensing up, and shoulders and stuff.
Can you talk about the pillows?
Yeah, this one has wine on it, which happens because it's part of my studio practice. So these pieces are created. We're actually created. I've kind of loosely called them pillows, and that's not my intention. It's not about making work that looks like pillows. They just don't happen to have quite another name yet. But my interest in creating these kind of goes back to this idea of transmutation, and it's about putting these pieces of paper together that are really high shrinkage pulp, and there's air in between them, and then putting things like that put pressure on them or nudge them in a certain direction or pull or tug at them. So, for example, this piece actually was created, and then I took a bar and laid it across here and then secured the bar on either side. Or other pieces, for example, they'll have a rock placed in them while they're drying. So that rock will create a sort of weight, but it's amazing how strong this paper actually is. So this rock is applying pressure, but yet the paper is drying and twisting and turning. Something is prone to do something, but when you have outside forces, how does it influence the actual piece? So again, the paper, and then weight or tugging, and then what does it look like when it dries? These guys down here in the trash can are part of the bow series that I've been working on for a while, and they actually have a center to them, and then these pieces are strategically applied where they radiate out from the center. And I like to think of them, I call them bows. I like to also think of them, some people call them kind of chandeliers, but I sometimes think of them as cancerous growth. So I think about something that has a core, and then it starts growing and mutating off of that center. And so when these are hung, they can spin around, and they have growths that go in all different directions. So storing them is a little bit of a problem, unless I'm always keeping them hanging up. But I also like the idea that because these pieces are just loose right now, that every time they're shown, they look a little bit different because they're reconstructed again. And I think that's what's exciting to me, is they become more site-specific.
And that is all cast paper?
Yeah, cast around objects, whether those objects are something simple like a balloon or hose that have been, filled with sand, or sometimes if the paper is particularly soft, I can sew it and make it actually pull in on itself, and kind of making a different sculpture, or dipping like, for example, sponges into pulp and getting kind of interesting textures and shapes.
Okay, can you tell me about the new prints?
Sure.
Yeah.
These pieces are a series of prints that is a map actually from my house to my studio, and I was interested in creating a map that was more of a made-up map, and then juxtapose that with the actual literal map. The way we remember things often has something, and at least for me, has often more to do with sentiment, or what I smell, or what I remember or see. I made a map in my head of again, everything that I imagined to be there, or that I saw really on my walk, and then I actually transpose that with the actual map that I found in Google Maps, and kind of put them a little bit together. So it's part fantasy and part literal.